This is the first level. You need to convince the key opinion leaders. The key opinion leaders in this world, they are famous professors, they are speakers, and they most of the time, if they adopt your technology, they are going to say this is a good technology. They are going to of course, at the beginning, they are going probably to resist a little bit because they want to be, of course, convinced about the technology. But if they are able to touch the technology, to test it with their patients and to see that it works, then they are going basically to play the role of, of explaining to the community that it's going to be really the change to change the statu quo. Second thing that you have to do is that you need to have a tool which is as simple as possible. So behind the simplicity, you can have a high level of complexity. And most of the time, it's because it's so simple that it is so complex behind the scene.
Hey everyone, Jamal here. Today's episode is a little different. I'm sitting down with Bruno, CEO of PrediSurge, a company that's literally creating digital twins of human hearts to help surgeons make better decisions before they pick up a scalpel. Now, here's why you should care, even if you're not into healthcare. Bruno has cracked the code on something every company struggles with: how to ship faster with more precision and fewer moving parts. And he's doing it in one of the most regulated, high-stakes industries on the planet. So whether you're implementing AI agents, building software, or just trying to move faster without breaking things, this conversation is going to give you a completely different framework for thinking about speed and complexity. So let's get into it. Bruno, welcome to the show. Really excited to have you here. So let me set this up for people who don't know PrediSurge yet. You're building AI-powered digital twins, basically virtual replicas of patients' cardiovascular systems that let surgeons simulate different approaches before they operate, which is, that's obviously incredible from a patient outcomes perspective. But what really caught my attention is that you're doing this in healthcare, one of the most regulated, risk-averse industries in the world, where the approval cycles are brutal, where adoption is notoriously slow, where one mistake can literally cost lives. And yet, you're shipping new features, you're launching new products, you're moving fast. So my first question is pretty simple, Bruno. How?
Okay, short question and with probably a longer answer. So you're absolutely right, and the summary you gave is exactly the reality. So healthcare is really regulated, and unfortunately, at the same time, we face different regulations, and so that's the surprising thing when you are quite new in healthcare, because basically humans being are the same around the world. We use potentially the same procedures and the same tools to search people around the world with the same big companies, such as American companies, Medtronic, Abbott, Boston Scientific. They are all big companies sold across the world. And surgeons are closely trained the same way. Unfortunately, regulations are different, and I would say that one risk that we have in front of us is that probably we are going to have, and especially because of AI, so artificial intelligence, probably we are going to have a big gap between, for example, Europe and US coming soon because of regulation. And I don't talk about China, which is another story again. So regulation is clearly the key thing. And there is another point which is, and you emphasize it, which is the the cultural change. So when you try to push on the market, on this particular market, something new, most of the time you have like, a reaction, and bad reaction. And clearly the word that you don't use when you are serious in healthcare is disruption. If you say, okay, I'm going to disrupt you, people look at you and say, okay, we will see, but probably you will not have the time or not the money or not the right level of quality to disrupt me. And so it's a conservative word at the same time.
Right.
It's surprising because a lot of technologies drive the change in healthcare, and at the same time, there is a part of healthcare professionals who are really conservative. I don't say that all of them, but a lot of them are conservative. So now, when you try to build something which is completely new in this market, such as we do and as we did from now 8 years, a digital twin integrating AI to predict complications for surgery, of course, you have to take into consideration that the way we did it is that, first of all, I put in place the cultural background for my company. And so the thing is that I try to, at the same time, to combine innovation, because we want to innovate. This is really what we are here for that. And at the same time, we need to be really ambitious because it's like, Everest. When you want to climb this kind of market, you have to really be prepared, more than passionate. You have to be really ambitious. You really have to have in your DNA the ambition to solve this issue. And if you want this recipe working well, you have to add another component which is key, which is the trust. And basically, what does it mean, trust? It means that you can fail as a team. You cannot fail as a product. So you're right. We cannot ship on the market a product which does not work, because we need to comply to regulatory standard. We need, for example, for AI algorithm to reach a certain level of sensitivity and specificity, meaning that we need to avoid mistake from the algorithm. I say avoid and not completely have no mistake. Of course, algorithms makes mistake, but you have to control the level of mistakes, so the percentage of mistakes. So this is the first thing. But as a team, you need to have the cultural capability to fail internally and start again, to ensure that you are going to raise to reach the right level of quality.
Okay, so that's the paradox right there. High stakes plus high speed. Most people think that that's impossible. So let me just unpack that. I mean, take me back to October 22nd, 2022, sorry. You step into the CEO role at PrediSurge. The company's been around since 2017. The technology exists, but you're coming in to lead it forward. Yeah. What did you see immediately that needed to change? What was the unlock?
So it was the technology was there. Unfortunately, it was only based on numerical simulation, so digital twins, so no AI at that time. This is my background, so of course I introduced that because I felt that it was necessary. At that time, to be really honest, I was not sure about the real added value of AI for this kind of technology, but it was a bet for me. Second thing is that it was PrediSurge was at that time really like a private research institute backed with financing from business angels and from public funds, but it was not. I mean, the culture inside the company was not. We are a company and we have to sell. And when we say we have to sell, meaning that we have to have a product and we have to have a market for this product and we have to have customers who want at one moment spend money on our product. And so this is what I changed directly. And the first decision I took is that going in front of the biggest player in the market, so Medtronic, with the one product which was quite simple for us to develop. I put bracket because it's never simple, but based on our technology, it was simple to reach this kind of offer and to be focused only on this product. So it was a decision, and with the cultural change I just mentioned. So I say, okay, anyway, we can make mistake, but we need to be ambitious. It's going to be difficult, but we want to reach this level of innovation. So that was exactly what I said and repeat to the team. So be focused. So in this regulated environment, if you want to embrace everything with the first shot, you fail because it's so complex. So the goal it was in 2022 to be focused on only one product with one customer on one dedicated market. So ERI, the Endolic Risk Index that we launched only 1 year later, so in 2023. It was not officially launched because we were waiting for the regulatory things. So it happens only beginning of 2024. The testing phase, I joined the company end of 2022. April 2023, the product was ready. It was validated by Medtronic in August 2023. And then it was officially launched March 2024. So it really short amount of time. But you have to understand that I stopped everything else. And I said to the team, it will be the only focus that we are going to have.
Right.
And anyway, we will reach it. And if we make mistake, no problem. We are going to basically, I said every iteration is a learning opportunity. So we are going to fail, but we are going again to, try again in another way to reach the right level of quality. And if you do that, because you take all the constraints of your environment, but you simplify as much as you can your value proposition. So you don't try to change the world, basically. You just try to, with the ERI, basically what we do is that we just predict one complication for one particular surgery with one particular medical device, which is one particular medical device from Medtronic catalog. So it's really, really short.
Yes, right.
But
yes.
Of course, we knew at that time that it was the biggest challenge for the surgeons when they were using this product, and this product were representing 30% of this market. So it was not a small thing.
Got it. Yeah. This is interesting because you posted something recently that really stuck with me. You quoted Professor Robert Bruce Salter, and the quote was, decisions are made important than incisions, which I thought was really good. And in software terms, right, that's like saying architecture is more important than code, or strategy beats tactics. But here's what I want to understand. How does that actually play out when you're trying to move fast? Because most companies I work with, they're skipping the planning phase because they think it's slow them down. They want to move fast and break things. But you're doing the opposite. You're spending time up front creating these digital twins, running simulations. So walk me through the maths. What's the ROI of that approach?
Yeah, you're right. So first of all, it does not mean when you want to, it depends on when you say move fast, it depends what does it mean fast? Because of course, everybody dreams about the fact that they can each day move on the fastest way. And so, for example, they don't want to take the time to think about it, to think about the decisions. And this is a mistake because in a reasonable amount of time, when I say reasonable amount of time, let's say less than 1 month, between 2 weeks and 1 month, most of the time, if you deeply think about something, you can really build the right strategy and the right plan according to the strategy. So this is not so long. If you look at for example, in this market, most of the time, the delay between the inception of a product and the real launch of the product, especially in medical device or hardware industry. So, for example, the jobs for Medtronic and Abbott, sometimes it takes 2-3 years to to build the right product and to run the right clinical studies and so on and so forth. So, of course, 2-3 years, it's long and it's a lot of money. For example, if you count only on your investors to survive, it's long timing. But come on, 2 weeks or 1 month in terms of taking the right decision is not a big amount of time. And so it means that at one moment you need to think deeply on something. And what does it mean, deeply on something? It's make choice. Most of the time, startup I see around me, because I'm not new in the startup world, I see that people want to address everything, they want to embrace everything, and they think so big that there is no difference between their vision, their mission, and their operations. And so they work always on the mission level, vision level, which is a mistake. Of course, on our case, we want our vision is to shape the future of cardiovascular care. Wow, it's huge. Where to start? And if each day you think only about this vision, you don't take the right decision because you don't know exactly on which things you need to, which part of the business you need to be focused on. So I prefer to have short amount of time where I have with my team really focused on one particular decision, which is going to be key. And then, you can just roll out. And of course, it's a big bet. Then you can fail and you need to adjust. For example, if the decision was not good and after, let's say for ERI, we developed the product in 3 months and we pushed that in front of Medtronic's team, and they say yes, but if they were saying no, of course, it was a pity, but it could be acceptable for our investors to say, okay, we are going to put 3 months of work to the trash bin, but it was not the right bet. Hopefully, it was not this case. But what I mean is that at one moment, to ensure that there is enough clarity in your organization, you need to ensure that decisions are strong and that they are backed. Because if people don't understand why you take decisions, then they are not going to be able to be really focused on the execution of the decision. And so I do prefer to, instead of having each day, you put everything on the table again and again, and it's like that you are, a duck without a head, running or flying anywhere or somewhere, but not here. At one moment, you need to ensure that you are strong enough in your decision. And sometimes, believe me, you say no to something and you are not sure that you are not making a mistake. But what you know, absolutely, is that if you say yes to this, it's going to disturb a previous decision that you took and that you need to be strong to execute until the last moment, the first decision that you took. Because of course, so behind this is the opportunities discussion. Of course, you need to be pragmatic, and when opportunities come, you sometimes need to jump on it. But sometimes doing that, if it's not reasonable, sometimes could be the worst thing that you can do. And so Sometimes I say no to something and I have the conviction that we should say yes, but because of the fact that it's going to disturb our rollout, then I say no. And
Got it.
believe me, it's the most difficult thing that you have to do when you are a CEO.
Got it. So in your context, so it's basically the cost of iteration in production versus the cost of iteration in simulation. And in your world, production is a human being on an operating table. So you have to get it right the first time. But now you serve two markets with this technology. You've got the clinical side, which is surgeons planning procedures, but you also work with medtech companies like Medtronic, as you said, who are using your digital twins to develop new devices. And on your website, you say it compresses design iteration periods. So just give me a concrete example. What's the fastest you've seen a medical device company go from concept to confidence using this approach? I mean, what kind of time savings are you talking about?
Yeah, so of course I cannot disclose specific project because it's really at R&D level, but I'm going to give you an idea. So when first of all you have to understand the way we design new medical device. I'm talking about hardware for those companies. Most of the time it starts with an idea. It could be, for example, a new fabric, a new material coming. I mean, a new capability in terms of building something. I mean, and based on this, you are going to start really from scratch with really the raw material. And with the raw material, you are going to design potential new product. But everything starts at this stage. And at this stage, unfortunately, as it is real design, you have to make choice. You cannot, of course, you come from computed assisted design tools, so software tool, but at one moment, as you are going to build really the product to test them in the reality, you have to at one moment make choice. So potentially, for example, in a design, you have 2, 3, 4 options sometimes, and then you switch to bench tests. And bench test, it's going to be the way to decide which kind of product then you are going to use, I mean, to test on animal testing, which is another step. But let's stay first on this bench testing part. As you understood, is that you have to make choice. So you are going to build products. I mean, the first products, the first prototypes that you want to use, you are going to build maximum 4. Using digital technology, and as our platform is VNV 40 certified, meaning that VNV it's an engineering certification and it stands for verification and validation. So it means that our software is able to replicate what it happens mechanically in the reality. So if you test the constraints, for example, the stress, the stretch, etc., in our software, you are going to see exactly what it happens in the reality. When you use our product as a company, the good thing is that instead of being stuck with only 1, 2, 3, 4 options, and that you are going to build them really in the reality to test them on a bench test, on a material bench test, you will be able to run a virtual bench testing. And instead of having only 4 options, you are going maybe to have 40 options. And so it's going to open the things. First of all, you are going to win in terms of timing because instead of building the real product, having real prototype, it's going to be virtual prototypes. Of course, you compress the time. And in addition, you add a number of tests that you are going to run in parallel. And so let's say that at one moment you say, no, in the real world, I want to test the 40 options. Of course, you can imagine that it will be longer. So this is the first compression of time that we offer. The second compression of time is that instead of testing only on 1 or 2 animals most of the time. So in vascular surgery, it's most of the time we use goat or pigs. Instead of using this kind of animals, you will be able to run directly in our systems and plenty of possibilities. Your configuration, and not only with your animal testing, but with real digital twin that we have in our libraries that we can use and reuse because we have the right to do it. So this is images basically we acquired during clinical studies. And so we are able to use digital twins of real human. And so we are able to test virtually again the 40 options instead of the 4 options, and not on animal testing, but on real human testing, but of course, virtually speaking. So this is what we call that the virtual lab. And we are able, of course, to compress the time because instead of having the real procedures with animals, we have virtual procedures done automatically in our systems and run automatically in our systems, and you can get the results, let's say, within a week instead of having this process done within a month, most of the time between 1 month and 6 months.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm getting this right, you're essentially arguing that to ship faster, you need fewer moving parts in production because you've already tested more combinations in simulation. So you're de-risking at the design phase so that you can execute with confidence. So you've got the methodology, it works, the maths checks out, but now you've got to actually get surgeons to adopt it.
Mm-hmm.
People who've been doing cardiovascular surgery for 20 to 30 years, who've developed their own intuition and approaches. How do you overcome that resistance? How do you get them to trust the AI?
Really good question. So as I said at the beginning of this interview, I mean, it can be a conservative word. And so basically what we do is that, first of all, you need to convince, this is the first level, you need to convince the key opinion leaders. The key opinion leaders in this world, they are famous professors, they are speakers, and they most of the time, if they adopt your technology, I mean, they are going to say this is a good technology. I mean, they are going to of course, at the beginning, they are going probably to resist a little bit because they want to be, of course, convinced about the technology. But if they are able to touch the technology, to test it with their patients and to see that it works, then they are going basically to play the role of, of explaining to the community that it's going to be really to change the statu quo. So this is the first thing. The second thing that you have to do is that you need to have a tool which is as simple as possible. So behind the simplicity, you can have a high level of complexity. And most of the time, it's because it's so simple that it is so complex behind the scene. And so our software is quite simple. I mean, you can use in few clicks and you get directly your results. But of course, behind this, you have AI, digital twin. I mean, a lot of complexity behind the scene. And in addition, with the right level of check because of regulations. So this is the second thing that you have to do, because if you arrive in a workflow and if you say, okay, my technology is really good, but by the way, it will take 20 minutes longer, or I don't know, tasks more to handle, complex to understand, and so on and so forth, I mean, you fail most of the time because they are all overloaded. If you take, for example, the cardiovascular situation in the United States, in terms of burnout, cardiovascular surgeons, they are close to 30% in terms of burnout rate. So it's a lot. So basically, they already have much more to do than they can really address. So if you come with something which is going to complexify again their process, I mean, you fail. So you need to get, as I told you, the scientific confidence. You need to be really in the flow, not creating complexity. And the last thing, to do is basically to ensure that you are not going to modify. So I would say you need to push a modification, but you need not to go too far. You need to go step by step. So you
Right.
introduce a first level of modification, and then you wait a little bit to introduce a new step of modification. And so that's why internally what we do is that most of the time when we think a new product, we think a new product with different steps. And so we don't introduce the latest stage of the final product, but we introduce step by step the different features to ensure that we are going to, you know, level up the water level, kind of this kind of image that I can give you. So we introduce modification step by step to ensure that the change is going to be adopted by the community. In addition, there is another virtue of this kind of thing is that as soon as something is ready, we ship. So I ask the team to, as soon as we have something which is acceptable for the market, so we used to call that the MVP in the past, but this is kind of this kind of comparison that we can make is that as soon as we have something which is acceptable for the market with the right level of quality, when we ship. And the good thing is that you introduce change step by step. So combining these three things, so getting the scientific evidence and getting the adoption from the key opinion leader, ensure that, of course, you do not over-complexify the process, but it's better if you can simplify it. So we are going to launch a new product, which is an auto-sizing capability. So the first auto-sizing capability in the world right now. And so basically, instead of having a surgeon measuring by himself or herself the patient things, in 20 seconds, we generate the measurement. And then, of course, it takes 10 minutes to be available on our platform because we have a lot of control check. You reduce basically between, sometimes it can take 40 minutes, so 40 minutes to 20 minutes for a surgeon into 10 minutes. And instead of, he's not doing that anymore. I mean, the machine does it for him. And so, I mean, he can, for example, in parallel, running another thing. So taking care.
Yeah, very smart, very innovative. I mean, look, here's something I'm curious about. PrediSurge has been around since 2010 and 2017 when it was established, but you joined as CEO in 2022. What changed between 2017 and 2022 in those 5 years that made the market ready for what you're building? Because timing is everything with this stuff. You can have the best technology in the world, but if you're too early, you're dead. What were the signals that told you now is the time?
I think that we can thank a lot the radiology part of the business because the radiologists, because of their job, they are really close to the technology. Because I mean, an MRI or a CT scan, I mean, it's already a complex machine to handle, and in addition, they were used to have already post-treatment imaging thing. So they were already ready to adopt easily the AI. And don't forget that around 2020, I mean, the rise of a lot of company on AI imaging analysis. So it could be for the breast cancer, helping radiologists to be more efficient and sometimes to be more precise. So it was something in the market which was kind of validated. And so in 2022, 2023, on the surgeon side, I mean, it was becoming, more busy that AI can change things, potentially for surgery and not only for radiology. So that was the first element in the market. Second element is clearly the fact that companies were changing at the same time. And we know that software is going to eat the world. So, and AI is going to eat software maybe. And the big companies were convinced at the same time that software was not only, something small, could be interesting for having a small additional business units, but it was at the heart of their strategy. And so at the same times, Medtronic, Abbott, Boston, and so on and so forth, they were changing their mind and starting thinking of the adjunction of the hardware and the software at the same time. And so we were at this moment too. And probably the last thing was the maturity, of course, of what we built. Because I remember when I arrived in 2022, I saw a nice demo. But when I was in front of both surgeons companies, and they were looking us at a nice to have, something which was okay, good, but maybe not good enough, or maybe not enough impactful on the process, on the market, and so on and so forth. What we had between these 22 and 23 fourth periods is that we were really able to demonstrate that the tool was not only a nice to have, but a must have. And so the combination of both the market readiness and on our side, our company readiness was, the right pace, the
Got
right
it.
time.
Okay. I mean, your team right now is what, between 11 to 50 people, right?
We are 30 people.
30 people, right. So you're not a large organization. So how do you maintain speed and agility while building something this technically complex, right? I mean, what's your operating principle? How do you structure decisions, avoid bottlenecks, etc.?
Yeah, no bureaucracy. So this is what I learned when I was top executive manager in GE Healthcare. Bureaucracy is really the enemy. And so I try to avoid as maximum this kind of job positions. Because as soon as you create a job position which is related to administration, to bureaucracy, necessarily, the people are going to find things to ensure that they will be able to save their position and to maintain their position to the organization. So just to give you an example, we are 30 people, and when you look at classical organization of 30 people, you always have an executive assistant, finance accountant, HR leader, and people like that. In our case, we have no one. So basically 85% we are all engineers. And the second big part of the business, and I only have kind of my operation person with me, handling everything else. So finance, HR, facilities. It's only one person. And she's doing everything. And of course, we automatized everything. So accounting, HR, and as soon as we can automatize some things, we automatize. So we use a lot of AI agents right now in our organizations. And so all our developers are using AI agents. But as a company for even marketing, we use agents. The only thing which is important in the organization is the marketing. And it's important because we have, of course, the two parts of the marketing which are really important, the upstream marketing, so ensure that we are building the right product, and downstream marketing, which is basically our sales team. So we want to automatize, so we don't want to have salespeople. We don't want to have sales reps across the world. We just want to sell only digitally. And of course, when I sign something with big company about, for example, a partnership, just for example, the partnership we signed with Medtronic, this is me signing. So I'm the salesperson when it's a big account. Because anyway, when you want to sign this kind of account and when you are a small company, you always have to enter into strong negotiations. And if you are not the CEO in front of this kind of companies, it does not work. Because, sales rep, even if it's a sales manager or sales director, this person is not able to, engage, for example, the company with, for example, important discussion around exclusivity or around another topic which is exclusively normally managed by the CEO. So you have to be the first sales rep of the company as a
Sure.
CEO when you
Yeah.
negotiate with this kind of big companies. So we avoid a lot of bureaucracy. And the latest thing that we do a lot is that we highly look at the calendars to ensure that we have not a lot of meeting. So this is some things that we monitor, to be honest, to ensure that because most of the time it's not a question of people who wants to organize meeting. Most of the time when they organize meeting is that for me the meeting is kind of the consequence of an organization which is not working well, because you have to synchronize. And so if people they have to synchronize, it means that there is something wrong. So each time there is an issue, each time we have too much more meeting, or each time we have, for example, an issue somewhere appearing. So for example, let's take an example. We made a recruitment a few days ago. A new person is going to join the team, and we made a mistake. We made a mistake because we forgot someone in the recruitment process, someone important. And why we forgot this person? So an internal employee was supposed to run an interview with the new person coming. And we missed that because, we don't have a process for it.
Right.
So now I ask my HR person, so who is also the finance manager and who is also the facility managers and so on and so forth, as you understood, my operation person close to me, working with me. I said to her, okay, now each time we are going to recruit someone, you need to ensure that you have the right person around the table to ensure that the interviews is going to be okay. So I'm not telling you that, of course, our recruitment is bad, but the recruitment process was bad until now, and we change it. And so each time we see kind of an issue in terms of organization, we try to solve it by putting in place a process, but the process doesn't meet a bureaucracy. It's not at the same time we don't have a huge workflow to put in place and which
Yes.
is easy to handle. No, this is simple. We try to apply KISS, keep it stupid simple. So it's like, we are a small company. My HR manager know the organization by heart. So each time we have a new recruitment, she's able to say, okay, for this recruitment, anyway, I talk with the manager and I can in 5 minutes meeting to see, okay, which person, who I need to put around the table to ensure that we are going to have the right interview process.
Okay, so I've got to ask you this because it's directly relevant to what we do at Propelligent. We help companies implement AI agents into their workflows. And one of the biggest challenges we see is companies build these AI tools that don't actually integrate with how people work. They kind of create more moving parts instead of actually fewer. Another dashboard to check, another system to learn, another point of friction. How do you ensure that PrediSurge's AI becomes part of the existing workflow rather than just another tool surgeons have to manage?
This is a good question, and this is exactly the question we try to address each day, actually. And this is part of the vision. So first of all, we can address these questions with two, three, let's say, instead of two, because we can three levels of answer. First level of answer is in our case, really the interoperability question. How we ensure that our system can interoperate with the existing system, for example, in an hospital or with the companies. And so, of course, we ensure that, first of all, our system is really able to, for example, import easily data from the imaging system, the imaging server from the hospital. And on the other side, which is able to export easily data in a format which is going to be able to be ingested by another system. So for example, 3D printing. Sometimes surgeons, they want to 3D print the result of the surgery coming from our system. And so this is something that we can offer directly. It's something which is possible. So this is the first layer. The second layer is that we try deeply to understand the consistency of a certain level of job position. Let me explain you what it means. It means that at one moment when we really want to help surgeon, or when we want to help, for example, a clinical specialist in a company, so the clinical specialist in the company, if the counterpart of the surgeon in the company, Medtronic, for example, helping the surgeon to run correctly the surgery. So identifying the right medical device, discussing with him about the strategy in terms of surgery and so on and so forth. So this is a job position. And if you try to have this kind of position, so either the surgeon or the clinical specialist, you need to basically really understand everything this person needs to correctly handle this position. And so instead of being only interoperable, you become like the right software for this person, consistently covering everything that this person needs. And so it comes to the previous answer I gave to you about the changes that you introduce into the market. You ensure that the number of change introduction that you are going to operate are going to be consistent with this job position, and you are going to cover all the needs.
Got it.
And finally, the last position is the vision, which is the shape of cardiovascular care. And basically, at one moment, but like a lot of us, not us only, PrediSurge, but a lot of companies around the world, we want to become the one system. So we want at one moment to cover everything to ensure that we are going to become the Google of course, the cardiovascular system. So like Google offering from maps to search to
Yes.
docs and so on and so forth. We want to offer this kind of things, but this is a long-term vision. At the beginning, you need to ensure that you can interoperate with the other systems. Then you switch to one particular position and you ensure that you cover everything. And then ultimately, you can think about everything that you can cover with your system.
So on your LinkedIn, you've got this line about your mission, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's about using AI and robotics to push the boundaries of medicine and enhance human capabilities. Now, that's a 10-year vision, maybe longer. But you also need to ship quarterly. What you need to hit milestones, close deals, deliver value now. How do you balance long-term vision with short-term execution pressure? Because I think a lot of founders struggle with that tension.
Sure. I would say that long time ago, Peter Drucker was saying the culture eats the strategy at the breakfast. And you need to ensure that you don't have the same issue with the vision. And as I told you, it can be counterintuitive, but you need to ensure that the vision does not eat the operations each morning. Because if you think too big always, you are going to fail because you are not going to be sure about the next path you need to accomplish to reach eventually this vision. So it's like when you drive. You want for example, in Lyon, so close to our office, and you want to go to Paris. I mean, of course, you need to keep in mind that you want to go to Paris. But of course, you need to first drive, I mean, across the countries, and you need, for example, to empty your the fuel. You need to or recharge your EV. I mean, you need to go step by step. So it could be counterintuitive, but you need to kind of forget the long-term vision when you run the operations. So my pace, my personal pace, is that most of the time I'm really focused operationally, thinking only about the next release, the next sprint. Sometimes, so we run agile with agile methodology, so 3 weeks sprint. So sometimes I need to during the week I think only about it, and during the weekend I take a step back. And during the weekend, I think long term and I think more on a mission. So let's say 1-2 years and ultimately vision to understand if I'm in sync with everything. But I think it's in because if you are always thinking about your vision, you become a dreamer, a daily dreamer. And you think about what your company could look like in 10 years instead of be focused on the next shipment that you have to do. And in addition, you lose completely the synchronization with your team because your team see you as dreamer and they say, oh, he has really a lot of good ideas, but ultimately, it's 1% inspiration, 99% of transpiration. So, I mean, you need to make it happen, you
Yes.
know? So,
Okay.
at
So I
one
was going to
moment,
say,
you need to give a vision, but, to be in the reality. So for me, it's quite simple. I use the weekend for it.
okay, got it. All right, Bruno, let's bring this home. If someone's listening to this right now and thinking, I want to ship faster with fewer moving parts like PrediSurge does, what are the non-negotiable principles they need to adopt? I mean, give me 3 to 5 things that are universal, whether you're building medical AI or implementing automation in a logistics company. What are the fundamentals?
Think twice. So meaning that before starting something, especially in a regulated industry, and so we are a regulated industry in healthcare, but there is a lot of regulated industry. So we are not the only one. There is aeronautics, automotive. I mean, they are regulated. So first of all, think twice. Ensure that marketing, upstream marketing, is so important. And taking 2 weeks, it's not something which is long if you compare to the delay that you can have if you make a bad decision first. So it's like, Salter statements. I prefer better decision than good incisions. Then, as soon as decision is made, I mean, a 3-day prototype can save 3 months of development. So tiny experiments, big learnings. This is a good thing because you have a decision. So now you can make it happen and you can then go back to your customer and, for example, um, um, only validate the bet or invalidate it. Then complexity is really the enemy of velocity. So the big problem for the organization, and I think AI agents will help in the future, is that each time you grow, of course, the interactions between people, grow at the same time and faster. And of course, the answer that you want most of the time to give to the organization is that you introduce complex things. So you introduce bureaucracy, you create new roles, and then it becomes uncontrollable. So you have at one moment to double check if, for example, so take 1 or 2 parameters to double check that there is not, for example, too much meeting in your organization, because it's not because people want to meet, it's most of the time because your organization does not work well. Last thing is that simplicity forces clarity, meaning that when you don't have a lot of money and you can, because you don't have much more money and you can ship only one thing. So it becomes to the decision process. You need to simplify as much as you can what you want to deliver. So when I arrive, I ask the team, okay, what is the perfect product? They told me, if we can predict all complications. I say, okay, yes, but it will take 10 years. So what is the most important one? Complication. Okay, endoleak. Okay, but there is multiple endoleaks, right? 1A, 1B, 2. Okay, the most important one, 1A. You say, okay, but it's not a lot. Okay, now, do all manufacturers face the same issue? Yes, all of them. Yeah, but they build different medical device, right? So it will be complexity if we deliver this prediction of complication for all of them. Yes, it will. So who is the big one? Biggest one? Medtronic. Okay, so let's develop ERI, so endoleak risk index, only for one product, only for one Medtronic, and only for one complication. Everybody says it won't work. It's too small. 1 year and a half later, we introduced this innovation into 250 hospitals across Europe.
There you go. That's the answer, isn't it? Very good. Very smart. Okay, so last question. What's next for PrediSurge in 2025 into 2026? I mean, what's the one thing you're betting on that most people in medtech or AI think it's too early or too risky?
So we are going to launch two things, which is going to be absolutely key in the next years for us. The first thing is that at the end of the year, we are going to ship this auto-sizing capability. So it has been certified. We developed DICOM viewer, which is basically a software which allows you as surgeons to see medical imaging from your patients. And so this auto-sizing capability, as I explained, will save the time of the surgeons, and we improve the accuracy of the measurements. So this is the thing that we are going to launch in the following weeks. So it's going to be a game changer. The second thing is that we are creating like a hub meaning that, and it answers directly to one of your previous question about ensuring that what you introduce does not disrupt the market in terms of organization, but on the other side, help the market. And this hub will allows the surgeons and the manufacturers to discuss on the smoothest way. Right now, they use different systems, and so they don't have one system to discuss about the patient. So they have most of the time to send data and send back results and so on and so forth. And this introduction of the new products is going to create a smooth way to discuss between those different things, these different counterparts, different stakeholders in the organizations. It can be as the boringest product that we could ship on the market. Actually, it's going to be, because I mean, it's not fancy, it's not nice features that you can publish on the social network, but it will help really each people to better communicate between them, and it's going to be the big change in 2026. Then of course there is much more, but I'll let you discover that
Okay.
with our publications.
Bruno, this has been incredibly valuable. I mean, seriously. So for listeners who want to learn more about PrediSurge or connect with you directly, where should they go?
Of course, they can directly contact me on LinkedIn on my personal page. We are going to revamp completely our website soon, so it's going to be really part of our customer relationship management system in the few weeks. So of course they can directly go on our website and click on contact PrediSurge, and we answer to everyone. And if people want to join, for example, our company as employees, we have a Welcome to the Jungle webpage, which is a website where you can apply directly. So don't hesitate. We have a lot of people who want to join PrediSurge, roughly 100% per month. So of course, we don't grow this way, but we are always happy to help people and to better understand them, and also sometimes they join. So we are going to probably recruit 10 more people in 2026. So room available for people who want to join PrediSurge.
Perfect. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And if you're listening to this and thinking about how to implement AI agents in your business without creating more complexity, that's literally what we do at Propelligent. Links in the show notes. Book a call. Let's talk. Bruno, thank you for sharing the playbook. This was awesome.
Thank you very much.